Councilor at Large Barton is here, as well as Councilor Billy Trahant. Mike Gunnerman is here from Inspectional Services, and Rick Vitale from the Water Department. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know Thanksgiving is in a couple of days, and I don't wish everyone to have Thanksgiving. And we want to kind of put some people at ease. This is we've been doing a process for over a year and a half, trying to pick a site with the new Marshall Middle School. And there is a process to it, and the state tells us what we have to do. We've been following those guidelines. We've set up a site plan review committee, and we had to go in the city in this area, or in the Marshall Middle School area, and pick. I think it was 5 sites is what we had to pick originally. And then we had to hire an engineering company to come in and take a look at all those sites, and out of all of them, pick 1, 2, and 3. And to be perfectly honest with you, from the very start, everybody assumed that Marshall Middle School was going to be the location where we were going to put it. And we started putting a plan together. And while we were putting that plan together, we realized that there was 19 houses and 4 or 5 businesses that were there. And we realized that we would have to take those homes eminent domain in order to make the school happen. Then when the engineering company came in and started to assess it, they were looking at putting it over by English. And there were a lot of reasons why they couldn't do it there. I think there's a total of 30 homes and 2 businesses, and the possibility of a couple of churches that would have to be taken eminent domain. In both those locations, when you're talking about eminent domain, you're talking $4 or $5 million. And you're also talking that you have to tear down all of those buildings. And what the state does is, when they reimburse you the 80%, the tear down in the eminent domain part of it is not reimbursed. And it's not part of that 80%. But even putting that aside, you've got to take a look at what would happen to all those families and those businesses. And you have to be compassionate to all of those people. People who live in those homes, and people who rent, and people who own businesses and go to work every day in those establishments. So Brookline Street is probably 4th or 5th on the list. And then the engineering company came in and started taking a look at it. The original plan for Brookline Street was to take 9 homes, and also to take that big piece of property, which is 4.7 acres of land. It's been going on for a few years. It was developed, wanted to build. A lot of apartments there in the neighborhood was opposed to that. And even some of the neighbors in the past that might not put the middle school there, we always thought that the site was too small. That's why we started looking at taking the 9 homes. And it was going to have a big impact on all of those people that live there. Unfortunately, there are 2 homes that we are looking at, and they are part of the plan. And I know both owners of those homes are here. And the city is here to work with them, to help them. We know it's going to, create some kind of heartache. A lot of apartments here, maybe they can answer some questions for you, as well as Mike Donovan. The only reason I think that the school won't go there is that if we get back a report that says that the land is contaminated. But I know the developer had it all set up 4 years ago to build 158 apartments there, so I think if somebody can live there, then the land is clean enough for us to build a school. The only other thing that would stop us from building there, and that would mean that we're not going to build a school anywhere, middle school, would be if the voters, when it goes out to them in the summer, don't vote in favor of it. It's so long overdue to get a new middle school in that area. That school is considered, I think it's the 2nd worst for condition-wise, and what I mean by condition-wise, the way the building is. Not because of the teachers, because the teachers, they do a great job. In fact, in the last, I want to say 6 years, there's been a remarkable change in that school. And I know Mike was probably sitting here can, the changes that have taken place in that neighborhood with the school and the way things have been going down there. So because it's Thanksgiving and the holidays are coming, we kind of felt that it was time to reach out to any of the abutters. Now, since last week, I've gone around and hand-delivered to all the homes that would have been affected if we were going to take anybody's home. Again, the first site is Brookline Street. There are 2 homes that sit in the middle of that lot, and I know really my heart goes out to who's ever living there and one that owns a house, and I talked to him the other day. Whatever it takes, I'm going to be there. I'll go through the whole thing with you guys. The water department and the building department will be there. It's not an easy thing to have the city come in and say they want to take your house. But it is really, truly for the good of the community. It's about fairness, as Drew has mentioned to me many times. She lives on Brookline Street. Her home was one of the homes that we were very seriously looking at taking, but after a couple more meetings with the, what they call the working committee, we realized not just the impact that it was going to have on all those 9 homes, but also the cost. And by doing what we're doing, I think we're going to be saving almost $3.5 million just from not taking those other homes down there. As everybody can tell, I like to talk, and I'll keep going on and on and on. So with that, if anybody has any questions or anything, I'm sure some people may have some questions.
You said it's 4.5 acres in that land. Why, the other side of Empire Street, that's plenty of space to build that. I mean,
What do you mean?
our house down towards Empire Street, that's plenty of room to build a school. That 4.5 acres, Marshall Middle School, not that yet.
The entire lot where the school's going to be, what did the state tell us we were going to need? Close to 5 acres of land, I think. Originally, the state said we could build a school to hold 900 students. It's not going to be bigger. We needed more. We even need more than what they're allowing. We're going to build a school that's going to hold 1,100 students in that school. We're also looking at, the reason we were going to take all the homes at the other end there was so that we could build a soccer field there and to put a play area and some green space, because Marshall's the only middle school in the city that doesn't have any of that space. But at the cost of taking someone's home to put a field, we didn't think it was worth it. So we decided that we're looking at actually taking and putting that play area up on top of the building. It won't be as big as the field, but it'll be big enough to house a couple of basketball courts. The other good thing is, by eliminating that field, you're going to put the park up on top of the roof. The only time that's going to be used is during school hours. With the type of education they're talking about in this building is called cluster teaching. And it's 150 kids. They're going to be put in each cluster. And they're also going to be able to separate the 6th grade from the 7th and 8th grade, which I never thought was a good thing. I know, I'm not an educator, but I'm a parent, and I never thought it was good to take a 6th grader and put them into the environment of middle school, because I think they're too young for that. And that's why one of the reasons that I like this idea of separating the 6th grade from the rest of it. I can't tell you everything because I don't know that much about the cluster teaching, but from everything I saw on the plans, it's a 4-story building, and the first story is going to have a house, the cafeteria, and the gymnasium, and also a small little health clinic type of thing, where the kids can go in and sit down with the nurse and everything. It's going to have a community area. One of the things that I like is the Ward Council, because we haven't had voting in Ward 3 in, I want to say, actually as long as I've been in council, 8 years. We're going to be able to bring the voting back into Ward 3. So that it'll be right in the heart of Ward 3. And that's another reason why I like this location. As Carl was saying, that you might think that the lot has enough space towards the Empire Street end, but it really doesn't. If you look at the plans, you have to create parking for 150 cars, so you need a parking lot area. You also need a drop-off area. They're gonna put a road behind the school, so when you come in, I think it's gonna be coming in off of Chatham Street. You go behind the building, you'll be able to come out down on Empire Street and that end down there. So, and it's not, believe me, it's not a huge building that they're building. And 4.7 acres of land. Sounds like a lot of a big master plan. It's not. It really isn't. Are there any other questions?
So what are we looking at for a time frame? Now, right that house, we're saying, what do we do right now?
Yep.
So are we looking at, and that's what the last, looking at here?
I think what you're looking at is, and maybe Mike Dunn can help me out with this. We're not going to even be voting on it until June or July this year in the process. It would have to go in front of the school committee, I think, for them to agree. They've already done that. Okay, I'll let Mike do it because I don't want to give you. Go ahead.
We're in the process right now. In December, we'll be submitting to the MSBA preferred site. Once they agree to this preferred site, in regards to all the other sites Council will see us talk about, then we'll start the schematic study. That will be engineering drawings and estimates of how the school will lay out in further detail of what it will cost to build. There'll be a vote of the MSBA in either June or July, depending on their schedule, to approve that schematic study to go forward with the actual construction. Once we get that agreement, the city has 120 days to vote to fund the project. So there'll be an election held of the residents of the city of Lynn as to whether they want to construct this project. As part of that, within that 120 days, the city council has to vote to take the property. Because the MSBA will not go forth unless they have assurances that the property that the city of Lynn intends to build the school upon is actually belongs to them. The city solicitor can explain to you more about what that means once the city council votes, what timetables occur, how it would impact you and how long you can stay in the property.
So if the public take the property by eminent domain, then the city would engage in an appraiser, or maybe more than one appraiser, to assess the value to the properties that are going to be taken. And then, once the city assigns that value, that money goes into an account that sits there. And then the city will send out a notice to each homeowner saying that the city intends to take our property. The notice will go not only to the homeowner, but to the folks that have mortgage with the property. So the bank has a mortgage, and they get notice of the property. Then the notice will also say how much the value is, and that depends on what the appraiser comes back and says the value is. If the homeowner and the mortgage owner, mortgage holder accept the value, then that transaction will go forward and there'll be a payment. Okay, that'll come forthwith. If there is a disagreement as to the value, then the property owner has a right to seek additional damages by filing an action in the Superior Court. So if you accept the money, it's paid. If you don't agree with the value, you have a right to challenge that amount in court. Whenever the taking does occur, though, and you accept the value, and the payments are made within 60 days. So the first thing you'll see is that 2/3 of the city council has to vote to take the property by eminent domain. We have to have an appraisal done, and then you'll be getting a notice that will say this is the value that the city puts on the property. And then it will be accepted, and you'll get the payment, and you release the city, and proceed, or you challenge that. All you're really going to challenge, though, is the amount of the award. The city will actually have the property, take title of the property, but the amount of damages that will be contested in the court.
Just so that, I want to answer that question before we go on to another one. So, and as long as I'm understanding it too, this is Mike. So, if they're homeowners and we're going to take their property, are we looking at 9 months, a year before we would be taking that property?
Once the city council votes and the notice is served, the appraised value
appraisal is done, it will look at the fair market value today, but as I said, you have to also consider that you're doing a mortgage, the property is in excess of, maybe you are upside down right now. So I would think that's true. So that has to be accounted for as well. And then, as Mr. Donovan said, we're talking about the relocation efforts. There'll also be a relocation effort for the tenants. And also, if you have a rental income that's derived from the property, that will be factored into the value of the property.
But the rental income is making money on the property, not just to cover that up monthly payments. But the fact that they just got to wait to see, and I have a loan to happen. Now, these guys can turn around and say, hey, this is not on the property next month, then I'll start the mortgage.
No, sir.
If they break the lease.
The minute the city takes the property, the city has a responsibility to tax. You're no longer the owner. You're no longer the owner. Once the city files a piece of paper at the registry of deeds, the city is the owner. The city has to relocate those tenants. We've had to do it before. With local police station, we're going to do a similar thing. No, it's not easy to relocate tenants, though. But the city at that point would be responsible for relocating tenants, not you. As the solicitor says, the fair market value, which you challenge, will be built into it in the city beginning you check it. The city will be taking the property. Challenge it, don't, but at that point, it becomes the city's responsibility. We actually would hire a relocation specialist that, people that do this, that would come in and relocate people that are tenants.
You raise a fair point that the tenants now, getting wind of this, may have an issue on how long they're going to be able to live there.
Well, you have to drop the letter in that mailbox and I'm getting a little buzz like about this week, you know, where I live on Washington, which you are to take. I don't want nothing to do with that out there. I don't do this condition. We're actually going to talk to them about this was going on, and I'm very fair with them. I let them know everything's going on. But the problem I see is that, you know, yeah, we're upside down, but
I'm going to cut you off, but if they didn't know this was going on, their head's been in the sand. Because everybody, it's been in the newspaper, it's been the topic of conversation in that neighborhood for quite a while. And they live there, so they had a right to get that letter.
well, I'm wrong, so I got
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to get that very clear that I think they have a right to that. But go ahead, continue. Sorry.
well, I know that everybody comes up down, so it doesn't matter to me. You take the city for something that's kind of be difficult, general area, which is fine, but I still really concerned about all the other things. And fair market value, I'm having to do real estate and I understand how to put my house value at. And there is no shut down. So that's what I'm really concerned about, it's not going to build.
So that's kind of like concern as well. I mean, we have mortgage, and we want to know that the house, we lived there for 12 years. So what's going to happen if whatever was offered to us isn't now? What's going to happen to us? Are we going to be able to get another house? Another apartment? That's not fair to us. We bought, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We bought a house, we
Yep.
stayed, we killed ourselves to
Yep.
buy a house. We're not in any position to move right now. We don't want to move, but if we're offered something and it's not enough, but we have to take it, we're left. You know, I have 2 kids, are going to college next year. The other one is actually a student at the international school right now. And, you know, not only do we have to take, we have to tax. We have so much to think about, and there's many guys out there that want to make a mortgage payment right now. So, you know, where does that leave us?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure where it is right now. But I told you the other day when I talked to you, there are people that I will talk to. Councilor Strahan and Leslie Barton have already said that they were going to talk to the same people with me. I will do everything to make sure that it's fair to you. You know, I can't make any kind of a guarantee, but other than to say that I'm going to walk through this whole thing with you, I'm going to be here no matter what happens. I'm going to try to make sure, and we can start the process next week. I can sit you down with these people and get you to start talking with them. Because I think out of everybody, and I'm not trying to be mean to Carlos, but you are, as far as I'm concerned, you're the ones being the most affected by this whole thing as anybody in the entire city, including your 2 kids and your husband. And I can understand where you're coming from, and I'm going to be there to do my best to help you.
Now, when you say that they will be there on 10,
I don't know, right after this weekend, we'll sit down,
I'd like to sit down as well.
yeah, but she's in a completely different situation, and the type of help that I'm talking about isn't the same kind of help that this person would be able to provide for you. That's, your situation is something that you have to sit with the law department, and
These guys got to sit with somebody together to relocate.
she's got to find a new place to live.
That's all.
You don't, and we're going to work with your tenants. It's a completely different situation about the gentleman back there, Rod Steve.
Hi there. I just have a quick question. What's the chances of the state voting against the Brookline Street site? Because you guys are going to try to build a 10,000 square foot house on an 8,000 square foot lot. These concerns, and it's unfortunate, I spoke with all of you guys in the past. This is my main point. All of these concerns should have been brought up a year ago, a year and a half ago. Now all of a sudden, the city picked an architect in March, boom, you
We're
guys
not
picked
figuring
a site,
out, Steve, we're not doing that.
and now you guys picked a site, and these people are adversely affected.
In the site
In
we're
the
talking
water
about, we're
line.
talking about 20 different families or more, as well as all the businesses. And the same thing down on Essex Street, Steve. We're talking, and I don't mean to make it any easier for either one of these homeowners, but that's the reason we picked this site, was because it's going to have the least impact on any neighborhood or any family. It's not on them. It really isn't.
Okay.
But that's why we picked this
Okay.
site. And we did go through that whole process, as I started out earlier saying, that we picked 5 locations and we brought in a company to do a study. And this was the location they picked. Wasn't any of our idea to pick this location.
You guys don't think it was your idea?
Pardon?
You guys don't think it was your idea? Given that
You can ask anybody who sat on the
given
board.
that
This
a
was
council
the
lot
last
is
spot.
directly in that neighborhood?
This was the last spot that we thought this was going to go. Whether you believe that or not.
Okay. All right. Well, just getting back to my question, what's the chances of the state saying no to this particular site? And if possible, could the Thurgood Marshall Working Group go back to the drawing board?
Of course they would.
Okay.
And what are the chances? I don't know. Maybe Mike can answer that. He doesn't have involved.
If the site meets programmatic and other standards, educational programmatic standards, as well as the layout standards, they allocate so many square feet per cafeteria, gymnasiums. They know what the building should look like. They'll review it, they'll look at how it looks in regards to other communities and what they've built. We will be doing hazardous materials investigation, subsoils. If these criteria are met, and they meet in regards the same way other criteria are met in other communities, they will not take exception to the site. It's my understanding that they will not say, well, we don't like that site because of A, B, and C. They're going to say, does it meet the standards? Can you build it here? Will it stay here and be healthy here? And if it meets those, they don't get involved into the local politics, I guess is the best word I can use, as to why it's site A versus B versus C. They don't get into land takings other than to make sure that you have title to the property so that you can actually build there. They essentially are looking at it to make sure that the state's money is spent well and it's spent in accordance with their standards. So if we do everything by the book, as if we've been doing it so far, and meeting the steps along the way, I would say that it's a very good likelihood that the state would accept the site as a preferred site.
And I just want to add to that the company that's doing this is what they do. We ain't just go and hire a fly-by-night company to sit at a table with us and us say to them, this is the location we want you to put this school, make it happen. We didn't say that to them. So, you know, they went out and they looked at the different sites. And was there any conversation in that group to sites that each person preferred? Of course there was. But it was up to them to come to us with sites 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 of them were completely off the charts. Charlie?
I live on Brookline now. Is this going to have any effect on the property value of the property down here? I mean, having a school or not?
Well, honestly, I think it will have an effect, and I think it will make your property values go up. And I'll give you my feelings and reasons why, whether it goes in that location on Brookline Street, or they do what they're talking about over at Marshall, or even if they put the school over where Steve's talking about. You're going to put a brand new school, which is going to bring people into the area that want to buy homes. Because number one, it's a brand new school. Number two, the only time the school's being used is during school hours and from September until May. And in the opinion of a lot of people, I think, that live in that particular area or any other area, because we have so much rental property in the city, we don't need another 120 or 150 apartments. So I think it would raise the value of the properties there rather than bring them the other way.
This is that apartment we have here. I've lived there for years, that bakery was there.
Yep.
The animal factory was there. We had a big park problem. Park up and down on the side street, whatever.
Yeah, the difference between this building, the school going there, and what was there previously, they're going to create 150 parking spots on the site. The other thing is, you're talking about middle school kids, where it's not like going into a high school, where the kids aren't going to be driving to school, they're probably going to be being dropped off.